Okay, guys, today we're going to talk about our third theme, which is minorities, marginalization, and scapegoating. So, as you can see here, we have some groups that are minority groups. And remember, this book takes place, Of Mice and Men takes place in the 1930s. So, we see a lot of mistreatment of these groups of people. So, our first group of people are African Americans, all right? So, the African American character in this book is Crooks. We're going to talk about him later, but he's one of the marginalized groups in this book who gets scapegoated. He's also a minority. We also have the disabled community right here, and the person who is disabled in this book is Kandy. All right, he's missing an arm. He is deemed to be outside of society, not as useful, not as strong, and he doesn't completely live up to the other people who are on the ranch. And lastly, we have our group of people who are women in the book, and this is Curley's wife. All right, Curley's wife is one of the least powerful people in the book, but she tries to assert her dominance, as we've talked about before in some of the other themes. Let's go back to the disabled community. Just because someone is physically disabled doesn't mean that's all disabled people. One of the disabled people who's also in the book, obviously, is Lenny. Lenny has significant impacts from some unknown cause to his mental capacity. So he is definitely a disabled minority in this book. Okay, here's some definitions. I'm not going to read through them for you, just so you know, basically a minority, relatively small group of people, and as you can see from our picture here, it's when someone is singled out, right? There's not a lot of this person right here. There's many of these other people here. Marginalization means these people are kind of put off to the side, right? They're not really considered important people. Lenny is a marginalized person. Curley's wife is a marginalized person. Crooks is a marginalized person. And Kandy is a marginalized person. They're kind of living outside of the realm of what other people are doing. And scapegoating is our last term. This is when everybody kind of focuses on one single person in order to take all the blame for something that's gone on. And there is some scapegoating in the book that we'll talk about. People are abused as a way to kind of make problems go away, and they're blamed wrongly, and they're thought to be the people who, if we blame them and put all of the blame on them, that kind of like makes up for all the wrong that's been done in the world. So that's kind of a brief definition of scapegoating, but you can take a look at these definitions later. So our first character is Lenny here. He is marginalized and scapegoated throughout Of Mice and Men. He's large. He's got a big frame. This is definitely something that's different from his inner childlike, kind of delicate nature. He's mentally disabled, as we've talked about. His actions and intentions, whatever he does, the ways that he behaves in society, they're misunderstood by the people around him. He's been chased out of the town Weed because he wanted to feel the fabric on a young lady's dress, and that was misinterpreted, so he and George had to leave. He was accused of rape as a result of that. Due to his appearance, the way he looks, and the way that he acts, he is completely misunderstood. People just don't get Lenny. He's insanely strong. He can't really control that strength. So it's something that people admire, but it's also a big threat. And in the end, George has to reckon with the fact that he has been a partner in Lenny's ultimate fall because he never confronts what's going on with Lenny. By George attempting to ignore things and kind of ridiculing Lenny and his disability at times, He, in a way, does prevent Lenny from understanding his own nature the way that he is. And he does marginalize his friend forever. I don't think he does it on purpose, but he does it. Crooks is our next character. He is maybe the most marginalized character on the ranch. He is black. He's a stable hand. They use the N word repeatedly throughout the book against Crooks. His crooked spine, he's kind of like has a physical disability, but that kind of pokes fun. His name Crooks kind of pokes fun at his crooked spine. He is in the 30s. This makes him a second class citizen, the fact that he's black. A society at large does not look at him as an equal citizen, right? And he's disabled, which plays into that weakness that we talked about during the Depression, which really makes a lot of people come down on him. He does these odd jobs on the ranch. He doesn't have a real important job on the ranch. He spends a lot of time in his room. He's kind of segregated from the people who hang out in the bunkhouse. He keeps to himself. He does a lot of reading. He also kind of tells Lenny about when he was a child and they were the only black family in their entire California town. He faced isolation because of that, and it's happened throughout his entire life. And Crooks really understands this whole being marginalized role and this scapegoat role. So he kind of avoids situations where he can be treated badly, worse than he already is treated. Kandy is one of the characters who's also marginalized. He's an older person. He is missing a hand, which he lost in an accident. And he works as this job called a swamper. So that's he's in charge of people who do odd jobs on the farm. The only reason he's on the farm, according to his perception and maybe a lot of others on the farm, is because of his boss's pity. His boss pities him. That's why he keeps him around. This old stinking sheepdog that he has that's blind and lame, it's kind of symbolic of the role that Kandy has on the farm. He keeps it around his entire life until he eventually has to be put down. So he is a person who definitely is maybe well enough liked among the other workers, but he's kind of on borrowed time, and he knows it. He knows if he stays around, he's eventually going to be taken off the job that he has. He's definitely aware he's not like other men on the ranch, and he knows that he has to find another way out before he becomes the victim of scapegoating and is attacked or possibly killed and follows the same fate as his dog. Curley's wife, she is not disabled. She is not part of a minority group aside from her sex. She's the only woman on the ranch, and because of that, she is marginalized. She dresses up, she puts curlers in her hair, she puts makeup on, she hangs around the bunkhouse under the auspices of looking for her husband, but really she wants to flirt and talk with the other men who work on the ranch. They basically call her someone who's promiscuous sexually and a tart, and they don't want to associate with her. She later tells others on the ranch that she's miserable. She's always pictured herself as being a big movie star, and she really just only wants company from this isolation that she feels from the entire ranch. Basically, the other people on the ranch, they're suspicious of her, and they pass judgment on her a lot. So, altogether, this idea of marginalized and scapegoated characters, this kind of represents this these big lines in American society at this time. All right, who you are depends on what you are a lot in Of Mice and Men in this time. People are fearful. Things in the society during the Depression are unstable, and that creates distrust in our society. So these people are looked at and ganged up on very easy. There aren't a lot of jobs available to even white, able-bodied men at this time. Society is starting to crumble because of the weight of the Great Depression, and this creates disillusionment with a lot that's going on. Scapegoating minorities, whether you're disabled, African American, or a woman, that gives people in dominant groups like white people at this time someone to blame. And then, once white people can blame you at this time, they shoulder the shame about their own failure. The people who are minorities basically are meant to bear the burden of white people's shame at this time because they could not be successful because of how hard the Great Depression was. So Steinbeck really wants to warn us against societies who pick on its weakest members in order to make the powerful feel good, and that is a huge theme that happens in Of Mice and Men. So thanks for listening. I hope you got a lot from this theme, and look for your exam tomorrow in Schoology. It'll be a Schoology quiz where you do some writing. All right, thanks guys. Have a great day.